Hello everyone, and thank you for joining in today. I have for you a practice that is a complete body practice, and by that I mean it will have effect on all of the body systems, and with a continued awareness of our fascial system. And it doesn't take long to incorporate the knowledge of those little movements into a regular practice and even into sort of regular activities where you will be able to have a really positive influence on that all-important fascial system. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. Get any props that you may need. And when you do that, come into a comfortable seat of your choice. So you might benefit from moving around just a little bit to find that point of comfort. And then when you do that, you want to feel the sits bones rooted down and the crown of your head sort of reaching a little more for the ceiling, for skyward. So you have that nice sense of alignment and verticality in the spine. Once you find that, just feel the shoulders release a little bit away from your ears. And perhaps you just rest the hands on your thighs. And take this really important few moments to shift from thinking to feeling. How do you do that? Well, most of us are already doing it. The best way to do it is just having an awareness of your breathing. So just start to focus on your next in-breath and out-breath. And just do this a few times. And just notice that you're already shifting from thinking mind to just awareness of feelings, sensations. Let's see if you can continue focusing on the breathing. And you want to work from that space within, from the inside out, always. And just lengthen and soften the breath. And just see, can you enjoy this process, this very familiar process of just being aware of your breathing? And so by now you've got to a 6 count inhale and exhale. And that's the breath you'll return to again and again throughout the practice. Anytime you notice you've let it go, you just come back to it. And let's all just blink our eyes open. Let the arms slide away to the sides of the body, turning your palms outward. Have a big inhale. Reach the arms out and up. And once the arms are up, really press down a little more through the sits bones and reach up a little more through those finger points. Feel that lovely length in the spine. And then bring the arms down to shoulder height. And just leave them right out from the shoulders for just a breath or two. And just start revolving the thumbs backwards. And when you do that, of course, you'll notice the chest broadens. And then turn the thumbs to the front. Keep swiveling as much as you can and just see what happens in the arms. See what happens in your chest, right around the arm and shoulder junction. One more time. Thumbs out. And thumbs back in. And slowly on the next exhale, just bring the hands to the heart. Namaste. And let's go ahead and come to the floor. Lying back. Give yourself a nice big full frontal stretch. And now's the time to really begin linking breath with movement. So have a few inhales where you stretch as much as you can, and you can release away from that a little bit when you exhale. Reaching as you inhale, and just letting it go when you exhale. One more time, inhaling, reach, 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 arms and legs, and then release as you exhale. And then with your next exhale, just bring the right knee closer in towards your chest. And just focus on your exhales just for the next 2 or 3 breaths. You're bringing that right thigh a little closer in when you exhale. Releasing it when you inhale. So just feel the movement begin and be very present with everything that's happening. And then let the right thigh come out just a little bit into a nice external rotation in the hip, and then bring it across, bring it all the way back out, and then bring it across. Just keep the breath flowing. One more time in either direction. And then when you get back to center, stretch the leg up and press it as far away as you can. Flex the foot, and slowly, with a little control in your abs, you're bringing that right leg back to the floor. And then bring the left leg up. Same thing this side. Let's just keep going now. As you exhale, bring the left thigh closer in and just releasing it when you inhale, just a little bit. Breath is long and slow, and you're just paying attention to how your body feels right now. And then just start the side-to-side movements. You're just letting that bent left leg come out to the left, and then right over the midline of the body into a bit of a twist. And just go back and forth like this, maybe 3-4 times. Feeling whatever sensations you are having right in your lumbar spine, perhaps right in the hip area. And then the next time we're right back at center, go ahead and extend your leg up, press out through the heel, and just feel the stretch in the whole back of the leg. Flex that foot so it feels like the toes are trying to come back towards your shins. And then as you exhale, you're releasing the left leg down to the floor. Lovely. And then bringing both legs in, all the way up towards the chest. Let the shins come upwards so that the feet now are facing the ceiling, and you've got a little bit of a right angle here. We're going to come into happy baby. So you clasp wherever feels good to you, maybe around the outside of the ankles, or maybe the little stirrup pose with the hands right on the instep. Have a few breaths where it's very gentle. When you exhale, you're just encouraging the knees to come a little closer towards the floor. Just feel what happens in your low back when you do that. So it's little pulsing movements. You're not staying with the knees down position the entire time. It's little pulsing movements. When you exhale, might be a millimeter of movement. Very good. And then let the feet come down and the knees stay up, and broaden those knees and thighs. Clasp onto each knee with your hand and just rock a little bit side to side. Again, you're noticing any of the tight places in the body, around the thighs, around the groins, and around your low back. Oh, and gently you can just come to stillness. Let the thighs come together. Just do just our little movement where we can really get the cerebrospinal fluid going, and hands interlock behind your neck and the head raised about an inch. Broaden those elbows, and then the feet come towards the right, and so does the elbow, and then the left, just like that. And if you can have that lovely focus on the exhale, you'll get just a little more out of this. Just see if you can keep going for about a minute. You've been doing it long enough that you can probably judge if you want to follow along. We've got just a little bit more to go. Oh, and release when you need to. Again, the legs come up. And slowly, with a really firm core, bring those legs down slowly, as far as you can, until you start to feel like the low back is compromised. And whenever that happens, you can just bend the knees and put the tips of the toes back on the floor again. And from here, let's go ahead and all roll up to a seated position. Try to rock and roll as much as you can. If your spine doesn't like it, it's probably because you really need it, which mine does today. And when you come up to the seated position, let's all just come into a little version of boat pose. So you want to poise right on your sits bones, have your knees bent, and clasp your hands right underneath your knees. Just come up on your toes first. Nice long breastbone. See where you are today. So when you exhale, nice firm abdominal core lift. It's going right. Navel's going right towards the spine, and maybe you can raise your feet off the floor. Just see how you do. Core must remain really strong. I want you just to come into whatever version of boat pose that you have today. And slowly cross the legs. Go ahead and come out of that. And if you can roll into hands and knees, let's do that. Otherwise, you're just going to come into hands and knees however you would like to. When you first get there, just place yourself in the hands and knees position. A little bit more weight into the inner hand. Just have a few cat-cow stretches on your own breathing. So you're inhaling, just pressing into the inner hands, and a little lift in your heart, little lift in your tailbone, looking forward. And when you exhale, of course, the tummy button goes in towards the spine, you round the back, and the tailbone tucks under, and the chin comes towards the chest, just like that, just a few times now. Inhaling into cow, and exhaling into the cat position. And as you slowly take it to whatever your maximum is in each position, just notice where your little tight places are. Very nice. And then slowly let's segue into cat-cow wheel. And so that the next time you exhale, you're going to push your hands against the floor just to encourage those hips back towards your heels. And when you inhale, you're tractioning the floor towards you. Make sure the elbows stay pointed downward, trying to keep the body as low as you can. And come on back into the cow position, just like this a few times. Make sure the head and neck is relaxed once you get the movement. And just take stock, really feel what's going on. Is your body able to continue the inhale all the way into an upward facing dog? And it's fine if you can't. What you're going to do is keep coming into the cow position. But if you can take it further, use your arm strength and just come right on with the hips forward, and the chest wants to be vertical into upward facing dog. From here, when you exhale, really take the tummy button towards the spine as you bring it all the way back. Just a couple times like this. Now continue. You're either coming all the way into the upward facing dog, or you're going just into the cow position. Let your breath be really long, really slow, and feel what's happening in your body. So one more time, inhaling either into tabletop or cow position or the upward facing dog. Exhaling right back, hips towards the heels. Just pause here for a moment. Point the fingertips to the floor and press those finger points into the floor, and just have as good a stretch as you're able to. See what your body can do as you just encourage the tailbone to go back a little bit as you press into those finger points. Lovely. And then pull yourself back up into the cow position, or into the tabletop, sorry. When in the tabletop position, the next time you inhale, right leg goes back, left leg goes forward, and find your bird dog position. Find length. Only if it feels okay do you want to pulse just a little bit, so that as you inhale, arm and leg go up, and then coming back into the long position. You can try it, and if it doesn't feel good for whatever reason, you're just going to hold the pose in the bird dog position. Really long is what you're thinking. From finger point on the left all the way down back to the toes or heel on the right foot. And then release. From here, let's have a downward facing dog in between sides. You might need to, if there's any tightness in your shins, you can pedal that out here. Oh, lovely. And then come on back down to the knees. Let's do same pose, second side now. So left leg goes back when you inhale, right leg goes forward. And do you want to hold this bird dog pose? Or do you want to pulse just a little bit, raising the arm and the leg? Feeling length in the front of the body. And then let's release. And from here, in the tabletop position, let's just go ahead and bring the right hand palm up. You're just going to slide the right arm right between the left wrist, the left knee, and you want to try to bring that as far as you can so that you can actually lay on the very top of that right shoulder. It's called threading the needle. And then just have your finger points pointed downward, TPing that left hand. And if you can, you don't want your head floating in space. You want to rest the side of your head on the floor. And then just a few pulses of movement now. Is make sure that arm is under as much as it can go. Press into those finger points, and just a tiny little movement in the torso. Might be just a fraction of an inch. Tiny little pulses of movement. Maybe get to 4 or 5 of those. So you should be feeling it again around the lumbar spine and around the rib cage in a very minute way. And the palm of the left hand comes down and you unthread, putting the hands one hand length further ahead than your shoulders. Another downward facing dog. As you just notice, you might be feeling a little bit easier than the first downward facing dog. As you exhale, you want those hip creases to go back and up. And then let's come on back down to the knees. Hands in knees position, and you're going to take the left hand now, thread it right between the arm, the right wrist and the right knee, and just take it over as far as you can so you can lay down the upper arm and then maybe the side of the head. Remember, from here you're teeping those fingers of the right hand just for stability, like a little kickstand. And once you find your position, it's just a little teeny movement as you press into those finger points. The chest just rises just a little bit as you encourage a little movement in that torso. You want to do maybe 5 or 6 tiny little repetitions of that. When you've had enough, let your right hand anchor you to come out of that. Lovely. And come back into your downward facing dog. Nice, long, slow breath. Remember, come back to that 6 count breathing. Relax your head and neck. And then coming into a plank pose. Really want that nice articulation between the arm and the shoulder junction and really firm abdominal core work. And place your right knee on the floor. You can bring that right foot back a little bit. We're going to open up into a sort of a gate version of side plank, bringing that left arm up. And on the breath, just have little sweeping movements where the left arm is coming up over your head as much as it can, and then back, pointing towards the ceiling. What you're trying to do, maybe even look forward a little bit. You're trying to encourage, again, those movements. So you're feeling all the way to the side waist, hopefully, that little movement. A nice big sweeping movement when you're ready to come out. So the left arm comes back, knees come back to the floor evenly, and come on back to a downward facing dog. And slowly, with control, you're coming into plank pose. Of course, your arms are so strong. Hold your plank pose for just a breath or two. Let's do the same pose second side. So you're going to put the left knee down, maybe bring the shin out just a little bit for stability. And bring that right arm right up towards the ceiling. And once you feel nice and stable, you can start the movement. That right arm just goes headward and back towards the ceiling. So you're trying to affect all the way back to the back body, all the way down to the hips, if you can. And then when you've had enough and you're ready to come out, make a nice little sweeping motion. The right hand comes back down, an arm. One last downward facing dog. Slowly let your knees come to the floor. Sit up for just a moment and see if you can do that little stretching on the bottoms of your feet. If you're not able to do it while you're sitting back like this, remember you can come forward a little bit, which takes a little weight out of your feet. So just make this doable for yourselves. And slowly, let's go ahead and come back, hands and knees. Once you get there and get stable, bring the right foot forward into a low lunge. And keep both hands on the big toe side of that right foot. And just have a few little pulses of movement as the hips come forward. Now, if you're able to do this without any pain, you want to walk that right foot out a little bit, and the toes are pointing slightly outward. And then again, find just a little movement here. So maybe a little circular movement, or just maybe a little back and forth with the hips. Nice slow breathing. You're just coming back to the breath, awareness of the breath, and the awareness of the sensations caused by this little movement. Very good. And then you can come back maybe onto the knuckles just for a little bit of length here. Walk that right foot closer in, and then come on up with the hands interlocked right behind the right knee. Let the arms drop on the exhale and sweep up on the inhale. Reach up and just feel lovely length in the whole front of the body. And slowly on an exhale, you're coming back down. Releasing back out again. You can come into a downward facing dog if that's something that would feel good. But we're going to do the same pose, second side, as you're ready. So from the tabletop position, you're just bringing the left leg up. And remember, both arms rather, or hands are on the big toe side of that left foot. When you find stability, you're just going to heel and toe a little bit, walk that left leg out. And just find a place where you can come down a little bit lower with the hands and arms. And it's just little movements here. And the breath stays steady. And you keep your awareness on breathing and the sensations you're feeling by your little sweeping movements. And then slowly you can come up onto your knuckles, just again for just a little bit of height, so you can easily bring the left leg back in. And when you come in back into the low lunge, you can come up, interlocking your hands just behind the front knee. And get your stability, and then just allow the arms to drop down to the sides on the exhale and sweep up on the inhale. Maybe just hold that for 2 or 3 breaths with that nice long length in the front of the body, and slowly exhale with control, bringing the hands back down. And this time, let's all, as you lift the knee, let's all come into a downward facing dog. Let the head and neck release. And then slowly, let's walk hands back to feet, feet back up to hands, and we'll all come on up to a standing position from here. So coming up to standing, any little movement you need right now. It could be just a little stretch of your shoulders, rolling the shoulders, whatever you need to feel comfortable, just do that so that you can comfortably come into your Tadasana. And just from this Tadasana, just start to lift the heels gently and just create a little bounce. As you start the bounce, maybe one heel at a time, a little marching, or both. You want to try to create a bounce that starts to vibrate the body, and you can move the arms a little independently, move the chest, and just see if you can really start to move your body. And if you feel silly, you're doing it right. Just start to feel really a lot of shake and jiggle. That's what you want. You want to feel movement. Sometimes it takes a little bit, a few seconds even, just to get it, to get the movement. And Just finish with more bouncing. Slowly come to stillness. And then the next time you inhale, raise the arms straight up and come right up onto the tippy toes or the balls of the feet. And then release as you exhale. And then again, inhaling, coming up onto the balls of the feet as you reach up. Feel that extension. Feel the little challenge in your balance as maybe you come up a little higher. And then release. One last time. Inhale, reach. Coming up as high as you can. Balls of the feet or tippy toes. And just hold for a couple breaths. And then release. Just let it go. Very good. And then hands to the heart. Just a little breathing vinyasa that you're very used to doing. As you exhale, let the hands come right down the midline of the body. Inhale, turning the palms out. Reach. Nice and wide and come up high. And then exhale. Just let those arms float back down again, ending up back to the heart. A couple more times like this. As you exhale, just release the hands down, turning the palms outward when you get to the side of the body. Inhaling, coming up. And then exhaling, let the palms of the hands lead the way. Coming back to the starting position. And final time as you exhale. Hands slide down the midline of the body. Palms facing outward as you inhale, reach up. And then exhale, let's release back down again. Leaving the arms right to the sides of the body. Widen the stance in your feet. Turning the toes just slightly outward. Inhale, bring the arms straight up. A little bit of a 5-pointed star here. You're widening the arms. You feel the widening in the arms and the legs. As you exhale, next, bend the knees, making sure the knees track in the same direction as your toes, and bring the elbows down to shoulder height. Make sure palms are forward. What you want to feel is that you're trying to pull back the elbows in line with the shoulders. So it's not at all hunched forward. It's really a wide open position. And see how low you can come down. Just feel a little challenge in your thighs. Maybe lift up off your heels for a moment. And then bring the heels back down. And can you take pressure off your knees, encouraging the leg muscles to do the work. Maybe I do that often by coming onto the little toe side of my foot just a little bit more. But I want to feel the groin and the thigh muscles work and not my knees. Very good. Try to hold that for another breath or two, as low as you can. And then inhale, reach back up into 5-pointed star. And as you exhale, bend the knees and place your hands right on top of the thighs. Come forward where you're not hunching over. You're extended from your tailbone to the crown of the head. Bring your bums down just a little bit more, and can you create even more of a ledge in your thighs? And just on your breath, as you exhale next, take the left shoulder and put it more center, and the right shoulder goes back, and you look to the right, and just feel any little movement you can feel all the way through the torso. Coming back to center, and then do the same thing, other side. So the right shoulder comes to center, and you lift the left shoulder. And just do this a couple times, just nice and easy with your own breathing and movement. Just let the body start to feel like it's really getting lubricated and flexible with each and every breath and movement. And then when you're ready to stop, go ahead and come on down to a wide-legged forward bend. So maybe let your hands touch the floor. Straighten your legs as much as you can, and just allow the torso and the head to point as much as it can towards the floor. And just kind of spill that upper body right over between your legs. And the idea is to unlock in your lumbar spine, unlock in your neck. You want 3 maybe long, slow breaths there, and then we're going to come up nice and easily. And make sure you find rootedness in your feet, bend the knees, and then you can put your hands right on your thighs and come up nice and safely. And then heel and toe back together. Give a little hop. Very nice. Have a breath with the legs together. And then we're going to separate again one more time. And this time with the right hand placed right on the right thigh. You're going to inhale the left arm up as you raise the left heel. Bring it up all the way over the head, or maybe even a little beyond center. And then drop that left heel and just try to come over as far as you can into a nice little arc. And maybe move just a little bit once you're there. A little bit of a swivel as your heart tries to look forward a little more. And then right back to center. When you're ready to come out, make sure you stay really rooted and grounded, both feet pressing into the floor as you rise back up again. Do the same thing on the second side. This time, let the left hand plant right on your thigh, because that's an anchor for you. And inhale the right arm up and maybe a little over as you raise the right heel. And then lower the right heel to the floor. Feel that movement first, and then try to go a little further into the arc if you can. Find the stability and then the movement. You want maybe 5 or 6 little minute movements. When you've had enough, remember you're anchoring through the feet, rooted through the feet as you come up. Keeping the legs just where they are. We're going to come into a little bit of a triangle pose now. So you're going to turn the right toes out. The left toes are slightly in. And this, if you do like to use bricks, you can place the bricks. You may need to come out of the position to get your brick. Otherwise, in triangle, you can use your own thigh or your own shin. It's really whatever you would like to do. Sometimes you can find a little bit more freedom if you can reach, if you're able to reach a little lower. So you choose. And in this position, remember, right toes are pointed out and left toes are slightly in. You're going to inhale the arms out in triangle pose. The front knee is not bent. So find first the mobility in your hips, the flexibility in your hips, by just taking the left hip straight back a little bit. So you're going to feel a little more in the very front hip. Maybe there's a little fold right there in the front. Just see what all this feels like. And you're reaching. And this leg, you're trying to go forward with the torso. And it will define, if you pay attention, it will tell you how far to go. And when you've reached that point, you're just going to windmill down. Wherever your hand touches, remember, it does need to be somewhere. You do not want that hand floating in space. So make sure you're either pressing into a brick, into your shin. Do not plow weight. You want to be able to let the upper arm counter that movement. So it's reaching up. So if you've come this far, that's great. Your work in the pose is to eventually, in this position, to start to turn your chest just slightly more forward. Find that long, slow breathing. And slowly, when you're ready to come out, turn your head towards the front foot first. And as you bend the knee, let's windmill right into a warrior two. Let the weight settle a little more into the back foot for a moment. And just find your perfect warrior two. Nice little counter pose for triangle. And then slowly release as you're ready by bringing the arms down and straightening the front leg. Coming back to center. And then, of course, we'll go right over to the other side. So, in the wide-legged stance position, you're going to turn the left toes out, right toes in. Arms come out. And just feel your way into this at first. Just see how mobile that your hips are and how much stretch you've got, and particularly the front groin. So back hip goes straight back, initial movement. And then you feel your way through. And remember to put weight into the back foot. So don't just put more weight into the front. It's very evenly distributed. And you find your way either down to the floor, down to the bricks, or maybe just back of your hand pressing into the inner thigh. So it's wherever you need to be today. So first find the position. You might feel that there's quite a stretch on the front groin. What I want you to do is be wide open to every sensation, and then you will know what to do. And if you can, turn your heart just a little bit forward. If that's a step too far, that's fine. You're finding your way in each and every pose. Breath is long and slow. And when you are ready to come out, you're just going to gaze down towards your front foot. Bend the knee. Just swivel up to a warrior two. Remember, put a little more weight into the back foot. And just settle into your warrior two. Just come back to your breath. And release the pose when you need to. Coming back with feet pointed towards the center. And then just going to heel and toe until you can give a little hop. And come back to your Tadasana. And just lower your eyes for a moment. And then we're all going to sink to the floor again to conclude our practice. So when you come back to the floor, what you'll want is a blanket that you can fold up to sit on. Most people, we're gonna do a pose called Gomukhasana, and most people find it a little more comfortable to have their sits bones lifted. If you happen to have a strap, that's great, but don't worry if you don't have one. If you do have a strap or some sort of a belt that you don't have in handy right now, you can stop the video and get that if you'd like to have it. So what you're going to do, you're going to come into the comfortable seat where just your sits bones is on the little perch of your blanket. And what's going to happen, you're going to fold your knees one on top of the other as best you can. Depending on the tightness of your knees or hips, either can affect this pose. You may not be anywhere near having your hips stacked, and I want you to know that that's okay. You may look something more like this, okay? So what the idea is, as always, is just to come into the pose to the maximum that your body allows. So let's go ahead and first settle the lower part of our body. And just allow the sensations to, allow yourself to become aware of those sensations and just be there and feel whatever stretch or pull is happening in your hips. Do you need to make an adjustment? It's fine if you do. And as you continue to breathe long and slow and let the body get used to the lower body, you'll want to then arrange the upper body in the pose. So if you have a little look down, if your whichever leg is on the top, it's the opposite arm that's going to be on the top. If you remember now this pose, because we don't do it very often, but if you remember this pose, we're going to raise up with the opposite arm that the leg is on top, and around the side of the waist with the lower arm. And there's a few tricks to this to really get the maximum benefit, and that is that you don't want your shoulder bones to come forward and be in a hunched position. So you want the chest broad and those shoulder bones back as much as possible. And you also want the neck to be long. For those of you who are using the strap, it's good to just have the strap over the shoulder. And I do find it nice to have sort of the tension of being able to pull against the strap. So if you don't have a strap, as I said, just don't worry. You're trying to get the hands in the back as close as possible. And some people can even, of course, link the fingers. So see how far you can go with this. In the upper body, again, being aware of the sensations. And you want more or less the upper elbow to be pointing upward and the lower elbow to be pointing out to the side. Just let your breath come back to that long, slow 6-count breathing. And trying to get the two hands just as close together as you can. Not hunching the shoulders and keeping your neck long and comfortable. And just a little movement now. Start to hinge forward just a little bit. And from that position of a little tiny diagonal slant in the spine, just going to turn your chest a little bit to the right, back to center, and then to the left. Maybe make a couple sweeps like that. And the idea, of course, is to just keep breathing long and slow and let the body move into that and feel all the sensations. And after a few breaths, you'll want to come back up to vertical. Hold the pose for another 3 breaths. And then slowly release. And stretch the legs out into staff pose, Dandasana pose. A little bit of pressure through the fingertips or the hands. And get just as long as you can through both the legs and the spine. And then, if you will, fold so the left leg is in the front and come into just a little easy sitting pose just for a moment. Inhale nice and tall, and as you exhale, just do a little twist over to the right, the left hand on the right knee. And just come as far as you can into the twist, looking behind yourself if you can. Lovely. And then inhale, release to the center, nice and tall, and come over to the other side. And you just come to your maximum, and you try to hold that just for 2 or 3 breaths. Looking behind yourself if that's accessible to you. And then releasing on the inhale. And then we're going to come back into the same pose on the second side. Remember, if you will, whichever leg was on the top last time, the opposite leg needs to be on top this time. And so for most of us, we're not symmetrical completely, and you will feel a definite difference between the sides. So you're going to come into the pose just like you did and just allow yourself to settle with all those sensations. And only as that starts to feel comfortable, you may need to adjust your position a little bit. Remember, not everyone can stack the knees. It's fine if you can't. Very good. And if you're using a strap, you're going to put it over the, it's most comfortable for me to put it over the opposite shoulder of the knee, of whichever leg is in the front. But if you don't have it, again, no worries at all. So remember, if your right leg is in the front, as mine is, it's your left arm that needs to be on the top. Okay. And when you get the arm positioned right, your neck will not feel cramped. So that's the challenge. And the shoulder bones will try to roll back as much as possible. So the chest is going to be open as well. So find the position. Upper elbows pointing towards the ceiling. Lower elbows pointing out to the side. And just feel the challenge in the pose without any pain. And then you're just going to just gently, maybe just an inch or so, come forward. So you're just hinging a little bit at the hips, so the spine is a little diagonally coming forward. And then just do a little sweep where the chest goes to the right, back to center, to the left. Still trying to keep those arms back. They'll want to hunch forward, but you're trying to resist that. And just have a little movement. And then come back up with the spine vertical and have another 3 breaths in the pose. Nice long 6 count inhales and exhales. And then let yourself release the pose. And slowly take your legs out of the position into staff pose. Feel the length in the body, arms, legs, and spine. And then go ahead and come into an easy cross-legged position with the left leg in the front. Get nice and tall. And first twist is over to the left, right hand on the left knee. And just come into that, to your point of both challenge and comfort. Find that sweet spot. Come into your twist. And just hold for a couple of breaths. Come on out to center on the inhale, get tall, and then you go right over to the other side. And then slowly let's all release. Stretch your legs out. And let's all come to the supine position on our floor, on our backs, lying all the way back. Just let yourself have that lovely full body stretch. Oh, yes, enjoy that. And then when you've done that, bend your knees and cross the left ankle over the right knee and interlock your hands behind your head. And from here, on an exhale, you're just going to let the left knee start to go, the top knee just start to go over to the left. And as you do that, you want to press your elbows back into the floor. And you just want to go as far as you can and still keep your elbows and shoulder blades planted on the floor. Just mix this up just a little bit and hold the pose for maybe 3 breaths. You'll feel a lot of sensation there on the right side waist, thereabouts. And then on an exhale, pressing elbows into the floor, come on back up. And go back over. Movement is all on the exhale. Both up and down, you're doing that on exhales. If it feels good, you can turn your head in the opposite direction as your knee. And you want to do that 3 or 4 times with movement, just like that. And then when you feel complete with that, you're just going to uncross. And let's go ahead and recross with the right ankle over the left, and you're going to come right into the same pose, second side. So nice and slowly, paying attention to the sensations the movement causes in the body. You're bringing the knee over to the right, but pressing those elbows back into the floor. Only coming over as far as what your edge is. Find the pose and find your breath in that pose. Just see, can you hold it for 3 breaths? And when you've done that, we're going to have that little movement. So remember, it's the movement. It's on the exhale, so your tummy's a little firmed when you come up. And when you go back over. Elbows, remember, are pressing into the floor so you're not tempted to lift off. So you want at least 3 breaths with movement. You can do 4 if you'd like. And when you've had that, you want to uncross and take your arms away. Stretch your legs out. Bring the arms up over the head. Another full frontal stretch. Let's all come into a little version of fish pose. And so in this, you want to make sure the hands are palms down, but they're actually underneath your own hips. So your body weight is a little bit onto the wrists and hands. And so your elbows are pointing down. If you can do this with legs straight, that's probably the most beneficial. But if it bothers your low back, you might have to bend your knees. So just see how you go with this. On an inhale, you're going to press into the elbows and lift just the chest a little bit. And then see, can you lift the head and roll onto more of the crown of the head? And just notice the sensations in the body. If you've got any postural issues, you'll really feel this through the chest. So remember, you're supporting yourself a little bit with those hands in the hips and lumbar spine, but the chest is risen off of the floor and your head is firmly rooted to the floor. You can look back with your eyes and come back, roll onto the head as much as you can to the crown, but you're not lifting your head off the floor at all. Elbows are taking most of the weight, but the head can take a little bit of the weight. Try to have some nice full breaths. And then slowly start to allow the spine to come back to the floor. Take the hands out from underneath the body, one knee at a time. Let's rise those legs up, rise the feet up. You're going to have a little separation in your knees and just rock a little bit side to side. And just notice what sort of sensations are in your lumbar spine. And just everyone decide for themselves right now, what would really feel best? What would be the nice sort of completion of your practice? Would it be one leg at a time towards the chest and the other leg extended? And you might want to try this out to see. Or would it feel really best to have a version of Happy Baby? In Happy Baby, remember, it has more of an effect of broadening the spine and creating a spaciousness in your lumbar spine. And unless you've got a particular issue today or chronically in your back, it's a really good pose to often end with. So that's what I'm going to do. And just see what feels best for you. If you have chosen Happy Baby, it's nice to introduce just a tiny bit of movement in that as well. And just see how you can really deepen and lengthen the breathing. And I want us all to just slowly come into Shavasana as we feel like our bodies are ready to do that. If you need any final little stretch or movement, now's the time to do that. And then let yourself come into the position of Shavasana. Remember, even if you're in a hurry, it's always good to have a minute or two minimum of Shavasana. So as you're lying there, just become aware of the weight of your body along the floor and just feel all the parts of the body that are anchored, that are touching the floor, particularly the back of your head. And just notice that. And then quite naturally, you'll feel like your body's trying to get a little heavier. It's just surrendering to the floor. And then notice just a little deeper layer that almost certainly your breath has slowed down. So just allow that to happen. And take your awareness into your own breathing so that you're just noticing your own breathing pattern. Everything else is paused and you're just noticing your breath. And for those of you who are finding Shavasana lovely and comfortable, please stay there for a little while. And for those of you who want to carry on and close out with me, just slowly let yourself come up to seated. So if you are going to close out, just hands to your heart. Namaste. Thank you.